Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 7 of Trust Your Journey, the Nelson Navarro podcast. This is the podcast by me, Nelson Navarro, where every month I'm speaking with a new guest to dive into their lives, understand their stories so that we can strengthen our minds. You know, there are a lot of challenges on the horizon, and I want to help us all feel a little bit more prepared for them. The song you're listening to underneath is actually a difference from our normal theme song, and it's written by the guest that we're speaking to, the wonderful, the very talented soul named Steven Bamidele. Producer, songwriter, vocalist, based in Brighton, and at the time of recording anyway, and originally hailing from Suffolk in England. Something that I love about Steven's music is just the way it makes me feel, man. Because when I listen to this stuff, it's like, I don't know, I'm just overflowing with emotion. This dude's crazy talented. You know, I'm going to let this song play out a little bit once I finish talking and introducing the man, the myth and the legend that is Mr. Steven Bamidele. But this was actually his first podcast that he's ever done. I think he honestly smashed it. I had an absolutely amazing time talking to this guy. He's someone that I really admire, you know, in the local community of Brighton and music, and just in general, I think he's just a wicked guy. And I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from him. We talked about loads of stuff. You know, I think this whole thing's going to be interesting, whether you're a musician, whether you're a creative person, or whether you're just a human being. Yeah, if you're looking for a laid-back conversation, then you found it. You can find Steven on Instagram. I've included his @ in the title of the podcast. It's @ Steven Bamidele, spelled Bamidele. And stick around at the end of the episode. If you fancy a little chance to get some 24 hours of fame, just share the podcast, you know, share it around, show the people that you love a cool conversation, give it as a gift. But for now, sit back, enjoy, have a nice time, and I'll see you in the next one. Well, welcome to the podcast, bro. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you, bud. This is our first interaction. We have not spoken yet. This is the first time we are speaking, Nelson, isn't it?
This is the first time I've met you, mate. For sure. Nah. So everybody who's listening, me and Steven, we've jammed quite a few times. In fact, times. Jammed in the musical sense of the word, and also just we've hung out a few times. Yeah, I mean, before people get to this part of the conversation, they've already heard me do a little excited intro about who they're going to be hearing about. But do you want to just, you know, for the sake of people asking, you know, just tell people what you do, who you are?
Yeah, so my name's Steven Bamidele. I am a musician, producer based in Brighton. I've been based in Brighton for 3 years now, but I grew up in Suffolk, been writing my tunes, trying to get them out there, trying to help people get their tunes out there, and trying to enjoy the journey on the way.
Enjoy the journey. I mean, that is the theme.
It, really.
That is the theme of this podcast, you know, trust that journey wherever it may take you. But some exciting stuff's been happening for you recently, hasn't it? Like, you've been making some strides in your career, which is, you know, I'm really, really happy for you, man, because it seems like you're unlocking some new avenues for stuff that you're doing.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, I just signed a deal, like an indie deal, with a label called Part the Van. Yeah, it all happened throughout lockdown. So it was kind of this weird thing of like lockdown, music, you know, and trying to equate the two. But yeah, man. So I just spent the last few months working on an EP that they'll help me out with. And yeah, it's exciting. We'll see where it goes.
What's that process been like in terms of, you know, there is a weird time because of quarantine not necessarily allowing us those same like live freedoms to go out and perform and maybe go out and get into different studios. So it's like, you know, what's that process been like? You know, you're recording an EP. Is it all at home? Are you going out, getting people inside the house to kind of come around and session?
For me, it's because I've always produced and written on my own, you know. I started doing it when I was 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Like when I was writing tunes, I was always producing them because I got a guitar and a computer at roughly the same time.
Yeah.
and my older half brother got me a crappy music production software on like you get them with a magazine.
Yeah. Yes.
It was called Magic's Music Maker. There's so many people have heard this story now. I tell everyone, like if I have sessions with people, I always tell them this story. But I was like making music on that, not very good music, but like basically through the years, you know, I went to school and I learned music tech through classes, and then I went to music tech university. And I was just always writing and producing at the same time. So I've always been relatively self-sufficient in terms of producing. So yeah, like being at home in the studio wasn't much of a change throughout lockdown. But I definitely wanted more of a band feel for this release. So I got my mate Ish, well, you know Ish Hussein on bass.
Ish, the best bass face in the country.
Yeah, he'll never say it though.
He'll never own up to it, but he's humble like that. He's modest.
Yeah.
This guy, go see him at a show. Go see Steven Bamidele at a show and you'll find out.
We've got his bass face on tape. We've got evidence, man.
Honestly, anyone try and contest it, please. We're begging you. I hope people are watching the video right now because it's so serious. It's so stanky. It's so stanky. Best bass face I've ever seen in my life. Life.
So passionate. But I got Ish involved and I got Dave Bryce involved. Amazing pianist from Brighton as well, who I met through you actually.
No way.
Yeah. And then Scoop Monty, Tom Bellis mixed it.
Nice.
Corin Robinson as well from Hut Sounds mixed it. So it's like people were involved in this one, which is really nice. You know, it wasn't a solo effort by any means, but I enjoy like driving the ship and inviting people in. Similar to yourself, I've seen you work, man. Like I've seen the way you work. You know what you want to achieve, and you bring the people in to achieve that. But like you're always steering the ship, the metaphorical ship. You know. So yeah, man, it's a fun process. It's a learning curve.
Always.
What was the question?
That's the answer. No matter what the question is, that's the answer. It's cool though, because I think definitely when we come from a point of like being able to do everything we want within reason, like just on our own, there's like a decision that you have to make to like let people in and let people into your ship, you know, let people into, it's like you could probably do everything that you need to do. Like you say, you write and produce a lot from home anyway. And realistically, like you could, you know, do everything that you need to do just on your own. But then when you make that decision to let people in and to say to people, do you want to play on this? Do you want to sing on this? Do you want to write a little part here? You know, make it more of a band feel. Different stuff starts happening, you know, like chemical reactions start going on. Humans are like little molecules. They start bouncing off of each other and going in different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. Like when was the decision that you made that you were like, I want to go in from like, you know, a 12-year-old making music on a laptop on a computer to being like, nah, this has got to be bigger, you know, this has got to be a band. I want people to be on this. What was that process coming to that decision like?
Well, they might be like a bit too deep too early, but I guess, but like I always, when I was younger, I always really enjoyed being alone and doing things alone. And I think when I moved to Brighton, it was kind of a daunting experience. I didn't know many people. And I think my predisposition was to avoid like meeting people and staying in the studio. And I love being in the studio, don't get me wrong, but like there was no balance with social life. I'd be in here as much as I could. So it was actually a bigger thing than the music for me. It was like, I need like a really guttural sense of loneliness. And I was like, I need to get out of this because this is bad. Like beyond music, just this feeling is not healthy. Like I need to, like music is about other people. It's about people. Music's irrelevant without people. You know, it's good to do it for yourself, but at a certain point, it's about other people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it just felt like my creative process was missing something without other people involved. And that doesn't mean you have to surrender control or anything, but like I don't know. There's just a spirit, a soul to the music that gets added when I think people join forces on stuff. But anyway, so my EP, A Sense of Belonging, that came out in 2020, and that was like January 2020. So it was recorded 2019. So before lockdown or anything. And that was like a real experiment for me in terms of bringing in people into the studio, leaving the studio and going to record with people elsewhere. And yeah, like it sounds so, oh wow, you recorded music with other people, well done. But like for years, like I really was so against it, like so completely closed off to that. So it was an experiment for me to like be collaborative. And then it's like, oh, this is good. You know what I mean? This is a good thing. I should be open to this. So.
That initial fear, I think, is really powerful, of just like, it's going to be all right. It's going to go well, Like, especially when trying something like, if it's your child, and a lot of people view art as their child, it's like something you create, you raise, you see it from conception. And it's just like letting go of that child it can be really, really scary, So, I mean, well done, sir. You conquered this obstacle of fear. You conquered it.
Oh, thank you.
You conquered it. But it's been working really well. And, the song that you released with Dave, and it's got Ish playing bass. Remind me of the name of the song. Is it?
What Happens Afterwards.
What Happens Afterwards. It's on Spotify now and Apple Music. Go listen. I love that song. It's beautiful. And I think something that I've always really loved about your music, and I say this to people all the time about your music, is like, it gives me like a feeling. It's like I can feel the emotion in it, which is something that is like, even sometimes I listen to my own music or like other people's music, and I'm like, I like what I'm hearing, but it's not necessarily making me feel an emotion. It's not necessarily it's like the soul that you infuse your music with really captivates me, It really, really captivates me. And it feels honest and vulnerable in the ways that, like you said, music needs to, it's about people. Music is about stories. Art is about stories. Art is about communication. And you can't have communication between just one person. It's like trying to pass the ball in a sport when you don't have any teammates.
Yeah. Oh, mate, what a beautiful way to put it. Like, you summed it up perfectly. All I've ever tried to do is press buttons.
Emotional buttons, or
right? Metaphorical, emotional buttons,
figurative buttons.
And like I've never really said it to anyone, but like I've always aimed to. I want to make people cry while they're dancing.
That's a powerful movement. That's a powerful movement right there.
Yeah, but like if I can make people feel like they want to do those two things at the same time, that's what I want my music to do. Yeah, man, it's got to resonate. It's got to be emotional. It's got to be like emotion at the forefront. But yeah,
it's true. It's true, because that vulnerability is something that I think that's what people care about. That's why, as toxic as fame can be as an example, do you know what I mean? Like, it's seeing another person be vulnerable about their flaws that makes people want to just like obsess about a celebrity or an artist that they care about, or watch a film over and over and over and over again. Beyond like the comedic things that happen and the surface level stuff, it's like when you deeply connect with a person, it's because you kind of can witness their flaws, you can witness their failings and their successes and feel a connection to that. And it's almost like a diary. It's like you get to read someone's diary. There's something voyeuristic about it, from my view anyway.
Did you see, have you seen Inside, the Burnham special?
Nah, it looks cool, man. It looks really cool. Tell me about it. Like,
yeah. Well, it's huge. Like, everyone's talking about it. But exactly like you say, almost like people were sort of talking about like, is he being genuine the whole time, or is it an act? But it's almost like the point. But like, he filmed the whole thing in lockdown, and it's just got these, because he's like a musical comedian, right? So it's got like all these great, well-written tunes and stuff. But then he's filmed it all himself, and you sort of watch him from the start of lockdown to the end of it. You see how it takes a toll on his mental state. But you just, the whole time, you're just like, wow, I feel like I know this guy. That's how I felt, you really get a window into his psyche. But you just reminded me of that I think you'd really like it. You reminded me of that as you were speaking.
Someone's really topical about that right now as well. With the fact that everyone's like spending more time in their homes and like having to connect with people at the same time as spending loads of time in their homes, you know? I feel like that's going to be an interesting theme. Like after lockdown's done, do you know what I mean? Like not saying that that's going to happen anytime soon.
No.
I'm not predicting anything, but you know, even after the legacy of this whole period, like we've had to find so many new ways to connect with people. You know, people are listening to more music, people are watching more TV, people like teleconferencing is a massive phenomenon now, you know. And it's all fueled by this human need for like, I want to connect with people, even if I'm wildly depressed and I want to isolate myself beyond all logical reason. I do still deep down have this desire to connect with people. Oh yeah, we've got an extra 40 minutes from Zoom. Thanks, Zoom. This episode of Trust Your Journey is brought to you by Zoom.
Zoom.
Zoom. Thank you for extending our lowly 40 minutes to an unlimited time frame. We vastly appreciate it.
Thank you, overlords.
Thank you, digital overlords. It's true. I think it's really, really true. But that's, again, the power of music, the power of all of this stuff is like, it's, you know, that connection, seeing someone, seeing into someone, seeing how do you change over time, seeing someone grow. Like, and it's, I mean, it's wicked seeing, you know, even pivoting that focus around to your recent growth or the recent growth of other people in our, you know, in our culture, you know, in our, maybe our local culture in Brighton, but also like the UK culture and the global culture of music, like watching the pieces move, watching the stories move. I think that's always, it's always a beautiful thing, you know? It's like watching the stars change, or that astronomy.
What's the biggest takeaway so far for you from COVID in general? What's the biggest thing you've learned just as a person, not necessarily in music, but is there something you're like, yeah, I'm never going back to that way that I used to be? Like, because I feel that way in certain aspects. I just wondered how it is for some people, you know? Yeah,
it's a good question, because I think a lot of people are going to have a different answer to this question because everyone's on their own little journey. I definitely realized that I finally understand what burnout is. Like, I've been burning out multiple times before I really understood what this means. But like, having taken so much enforced time off and realizing how relaxing that was, and then jumping back into working heavily and then not being able to sustain that, but being able to really contrast that. Like the entertainment industry that we work in is so hectic and so chaotic and frantic at times. And there's, especially today, this like expectation or this feeling of this obligation of creators to just make, release. And it's not always realistic. And that can also then spill over into like a live performing industry, all of the other aspects of our lives. And that balance can be really challenging, you know, to find. So I kind of understand now, like, I need to create that balance. I need to understand and watch myself and be like, I need some time off here. I'm actually getting quite tired. Have I noticed that? Have I noticed that I'm messing things up, or things are slipping from my brain, or like I'm waking up and I'm like, oh my God, like I've got to do another day today. And that's a sign. That's not a sign that I'm depressed or there's something wrong with me. There's just a sign that like I'm wearing myself out and having to sit down, the first 3 days after the 23rd of March or whatever date it was that lockdown was announced, and I had no work, I had no commitments, nothing for 3 solid days, which hadn't happened, I'm pretty sure, in the last like 5 or 6 years.
Did that feel good or did that feel bad?
Mate, it was shocking. I was so shocked. I was completely like mind blown by the fact that like I hadn't had to leave the house. I hadn't had to check my diary. I hadn't had to answer the phone. I hadn't had to go out and make any money. I mean, that was a slightly other worrying separate issue, but we overcome those hurdles. But it was just really, it was really surreal. It was really surreal. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this as well, your perspective on it. And it's bizarre going through that phase of everything was, normal, full steam ahead. And then all of a sudden it was like engines died. You're just stranded and you're floating and you're like, oh, okay, actually I was afraid of this for so long. I was afraid of stopping for so long. And actually it's not that bad. And actually it feels kind of good. And maybe I should probably do this more often. And then going back into a work routine. Yeah, cool, let's work, let's put stuff out. And then realizing, oh, that was unsustainable as well. Like I couldn't keep that up. So that's what burnout is. Burnout is working in patterns that are unsustainable, that eventually, like if you were spending more money than you made, you would go broke. And it's just that in terms of energy. It's just going energy bankrupt. And I don't ever want to go back. In terms of like the phrasing of your question, I never want to go back to those kinds of patterns, as difficult as it might be to get out of them, as challenging as that might be.
Yeah.
I never want to, I want to stay healthy. I want to stay stable.
Balance.
For sure.
Balance.
Bank balance.
Equilibrium,
man, mate.
100%, like the biggest change for me as well. I fully resonate with that. And so like for me, it was before lockdown, and pretty much I'd say from 2013 when I really decided to go solo and like do music until 2020.
Yeah. I was 7 years.
Yeah. It was like, I mean, I'm still as gassed for music as I ever have been, but like music was, I'd say it was like a religion. Like if I didn't, how do I put it? I would be working on music constantly as much as I can, any amount of time I could, to like the detriment of everything else in my life. My relationships, my friendships, didn't matter. I'm doing music. See you later.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever had this, but like you have a certain amount of hours in the day where you're actually productive. And then when you have that kind of unhealthy mentality about it, there's a lot of time you spend just thinking about it. But and like not even like positive thoughts, negative. I got negative thoughts just thinking, I'm not where I want to be. I need to do this, I need to do that. I don't have enough time, whatever. But because I was thinking about it, I thought I was being productive. But actually I was just being counterproductive. Because instead of taking time away, doing other things that I need to do to help my life stay balanced, I was just completely in my head about, where am I with the music? What do I need to do when I'm back in that room or whatever, It was just always there. And I felt like if I took my foot off the gas mentally or production-wise, everything would disappear that I wanted to achieve, kind of thing, which is complete nonsense. That works completely in the opposite. Like doing that works to your disadvantage, This is the biggest thing I've learned. I thought I was like better off keeping to myself. I need social interaction just as much as anyone else does. We're all human. You need to balance everything out. You need to give yourself a rest. You need to call your mum,
Please.
or call your brother or whatever. Yeah. I speak to my brother more than I ever have.
Is it?
I speak to my mum more than I ever have, I'll never let weeks go by without speaking to him, I don't think, ever again, which definitely was the case beforehand. It's just things like that, just balancing my life out has been a big, trying to spend more time with Lucy, my girlfriend, as well. I'm probably still not very good at that, just because my studio's in the flat, so I'm just in and out of the studio all the time. But man, balance is a big thing. So,
and it's easy for that balance to overturn, and it's really tempting to just be like, put all your eggs in that basket, and not to the fact that you need a plan B, that it's like, oh, what if music doesn't work? That's not the thinking. If we're determined on something, that's absolutely fine, that's positive. But what can be to our detriment is when we put all of our eggs in a music basket and don't put any eggs in a social basket, in a rest basket, in just going out and living life experiences to then bring those to your music basket. Eggs hatch. That's the whole point of eggs, is if you have to let them breathe, and you have to let your life breathe as a human. And someone said, if you want to be a better artist, start by being a better person.
Mate, Yeah.
You know what I mean? It says everything. It literally says everything. Like, that balance is so difficult. It's so difficult. But I really relate to what you're saying there, bro.
Mate,
honestly.
I read another quote very similar to that, and it was like, design your life, not your career. And I was like, damn.
Boy. Damn, boy.
Yeah.
I feel like the career should be like a vehicle to facilitate your lifestyle, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if a career is going to be the thing that you spend most of your time on, it should be the one that is like, what do you want to do with your life? Say that you want to go out, you want to travel, you want to meet loads of people, and you want to spend loads of time in the sun. Maybe, I don't know, maybe being a holiday rep is great for you, you know? But it's like, if you can choose a career that lets what you want to happen in your life happen, it's like the perfect marriage. It's the perfect way. I can't think of a better way to do it, you know, unless you have, you know, limitless supply of money and you don't need a career. But even then, people need something to occupy their time.
Please.
Somebody give me a lottery ticket.
I've always wondered, I don't think I could ever do it, but I've always wondered what being a farmer's like. Can you imagine just being a farmer and just being so content with that? And just knowing exactly what you have to do. I mean, I don't know how simple being a farmer is. It's probably quite complicated. But like, just in terms
probably a lot of early mornings.
Yeah. I was listening to Daniel Caesar. He was talking to, it was like an interview he did after he released Case Study, which is a sick album, by the way. Like, I have had that on repeat recently. But he was talking about how sometimes he just fantasizes about being like a scientist or a teacher or a mathematician, just because you know what you're so, you know the problems that you need to solve, and you solve those, and like when you find the answers, you find the answers, and it's a higher barrier to entry, but like it's simpler in the sense that the general path of what you need to do is, you know what I mean, or like a doctor, you know what you're meant to do if you're a doctor. It was like, for that simple reason, being a musician or anyone creative is just like so bizarre because it's so subjective, and like you could think you're doing the right thing, and then your music could get slated, and it's like, oh, I thought I was doing it right, you know?
Yeah, innit? There's something empirical about being able to be like, well, look, this formula means this, you know?
Yeah.
But I also believe that it's like, it's kind of, it's parallel in some ways, you know, because it's like, if you, in the scientific community, people are constantly proving and disproving theories and arguing about stuff, and then just going through, and like someone thinks something's right. Like, people thought the earth was flat, and they were like, yep, job done. Nice one, everybody. Bingo. We got it. We got it. And, you know, it's like, cool, let's go home.
People seem to think it is flat again.
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's like, even that idea, you know, that it's like, ideas change constantly. And it's like, I feel like, in a way, no matter what path we choose in life, that feeling of uncertainness of like, have I done it? You know, those goalposts constantly move. I know they do for me anyway. Like, constantly being like, oh, when this happens, it's like, cool. But it's like, really, that sense of like arriving somewhere, of that sense of like completing a journey, is like the most temporary part, because it's just one moment. And then as soon as that moment's over, of like, cool, we did that, another moment comes along, and it's like, okay, what are you going to do with this? And it's like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess I should figure out this formula. So it's like, as much as there are, for example, like you could say, well, I'm going to complete this album, and you're going to know when you've completed the album because it's out and blah, blah, blah. But then at the same time, it's like, are you going to rest now? Or have you said everything you needed to say as a human being? And the chances are probably not, right? Yeah. The chances are you probably have another few words to say, few little limericks to write. I don't know, because I know you recently, I mean, you finished your EP, right? Is it out already?
Yeah, it's not out. It's not going to be out until later in the year. I won't say when, because got to do that Instagram game. Blah.
Oh damn! But, social media.
It's uploaded and ready. It's on the way.
Locked and loaded, ready to go.
I can't wait, man. But we're releasing a little thing in July. That's not on the EP, but like just to ease people back in,
like a little Lucy.
Yeah,
Lucy.
I'm excited for that.
Hey, man.
Yeah, man.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break and come back. We'll be right back after these short, non-existent messages.
Trust your journey. Trust your journey. Trust your journey.
Never done this before, man. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
It sounds really good, man, and it's deep, and that's what I like. That's the whole kind of point of this conversation, is like just to give people like something to listen to that helps them know that like other people are struggling and other people have struggled and lived to tell the tale. And that's basically this whole podcast. I should call it like the victory lap or something.
Trust Your Journeys is a sweet name, though.
I feel like it encapsulates the message, you know? It's like, if you trust your journey and you believe that even though you're not necessarily where you want to be right now, that you're going to be somewhere cool further on down the line, then you can kind of look at the present point of that journey with a bit more happiness and a bit more excitement, because it's like, if I say what I'm doing now is going to end in whatever I want, then actually this part right here is great as well, because I'm basically already saying that I've achieved it and it's just coming to me. And so it's like, whatever I'm doing now is great because it's giving me something that I want. And so I'm having a good time, you know, even when it's like the negative thoughts come in and the criticisms come in, you know, when you overwork yourself. I think that was really powerful what you said there, man, about just how the negative voices, like you overwork yourself and then you're not even in a zone of like, like I'm working right now, but already the anxiety of thinking about it when it's not happening. It's just like, it's like sauteing your brain. It's like frying your brain at a low heat.
But to that point, like I was going to ask you, this is like an interesting one I've thought about, but like I thought that I had to keep myself in a state of anxiety and general sadness in order for my music to be good.
What, to be productive, or just to make things that were meaningful?
Just to make something that was meaningful and good, I thought. Because there's this whole argument that there are more words to express negative emotions, right, in the dictionary, in our vocabulary. I would probably say that there are more chords that resonate with negative emotions than positive ones.
I like that observation.
And I don't know, I just felt like if I figured my life out and I was like chipper and happy all the time, my music would be bad, which I'm beginning to learn is a false dichotomy. Like it's absolutely a false dichotomy. But I was so scared of that if I thought like I had to be grumpy and sad, and that would make my music good. Did you ever have that experience, or like did you ever have that weird thing in your head where it's like if I'm because I feel I was listening to a podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And Jordan Stevens, you know, Rizzle Kicks.
Yeah. He's Brighton boy.
Yeah. He was saying that he was talking to Lapsley, and he was saying that because he's in a really good place mentally, he finds it hard to write.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get that, because I was worried my music wouldn't be good if I was happy. Anyway.
For a long time, every time I sat down at a piano, I wanted to play something sad. I wanted to play minor keys. And I began, there was a boundary point where I started noticing like the effect that had on the people around, or like how that made me aware of the energy I was projecting into that room. And it's like, it's that awareness that I was like, this is okay. Because for a long time in my adolescent life, I definitely would say I was probably, you know, reasonably depressed, and making music in isolation, hidden away, that expressed that depression and never really showing it. And kind of a worry that like, what happened if this is all I've ever known, if this is what I've been able to express, if this is the most provoking emotion that I can describe, what happens when I don't have that emotion? And it's kind of that fear of like letting go. I have to say, I feel like I've kind of got to a place now where, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of pushed past that point as well, where it's like, I actually, you know, I've written songs funnily enough, in the throes of depression that are ridiculously happy. I wrote a song called Brighter Days, and it's definitely like a fan favorite of mine, because it's really like super authentic. I recorded it in my parents' living room, and it's like really basic production. It's just a guitar, a bass, and a sampled drum kit, and it's like singing, and it's the hook is just like living for a brighter day, living for a brighter day, living for a brighter day. And that song, people tell me all the time that it's helped them just stay happy, or just even help them enjoy their happiness. But I actually wrote that when I felt like I wrote it on my birthday when I felt really, really sad. And it's funny how like it kind of reversed. And over time I've realized, like, right now I'm in a really good place. And I've actually started writing love songs for the first time. And I just realized that there are things, there are things to write about that are really powerful and meaningful when you're happy. But I was always scared of that. I was really scared. I was like, what's going to happen? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's interesting that you wrote that tune out of where you were mentally. It's almost like you're trying to manifest something in that darkness. You're going, nah, like this is not going to get the better of me. And you write that tune and that's the amazing power of it. It's like you created some light in some darkness, I think. I mean, that's from the outside looking in, that's how it sounds. We've
got a big power, man. We've got a big power. And some people will say it's responsibility. I don't necessarily know if I'd refer to it as responsibility, but like I definitely, if you've got a group of people who are captivated by you and listen to your stories, you have a big power to really influence people. And I'm really coming to the point where it's like, especially I'm largely based in rap music, and there's not a lot of empowering rap that is in the mainstream. So it's like I'm trying to come to this place now where it's like, if I'm writing songs, I'm trying to write songs that like I want to hear people singing back these words, because I've realized people at shows sing back the words. And I'm like, actually, that means that I get to choose what you say. And if I get to choose what you say, I want you to say something that you wouldn't say before, but builds your spirit and fortifies your soul, And so if I can write something in my little room that's like, I'm living for a brighter day, or something like one of my songs that's going to come out soon is like, I love you when I show it. I know you're worth it. I just want to see you glowing. And it's like, if I can get Mick Jenkins, his whole catchphrase when live, he just gets the crowd to chant, drink more water. His whole thing.
Yeah. Drink more water.
Drink more water. You will die. And he goes up on stage and he's like, I'm going to say it, then you say it back. Drink more water. Bro, it's game changing. It's like, you have this power. It's like if people go to church and stuff, like they see the preacher at the front, and you're a guide, you're a shepherd, and you get to bring a certain light in someone's life. So it's like sometimes you can be melancholy in a sense of being open and honest about your emotions, like we were saying earlier, being open and vulnerable. And then you can also be melancholy in a sense of, hey, things aren't good right now, but they're going to be good and things are temporary, or like trying to encourage some stoicism, and just being like, hey, everything is temporary. Just love what you're doing now. If you're doing something now and you can love it, then you will always be able to love what you're doing. Don't put off your own happiness,
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Mate, that's amazing to me. I find when I'm hard at work on stuff, I often feel, I'd say the last thing I feel is like that I have responsibility. I almost feel like I'm avoiding it, or that like I'm fulfilling some sort of selfish impulse by like making music. But then I'll get a message from someone who heard my music and loved it, and they'll tell me how it helped them through some hard time. Yeah. And suddenly it's like, whoa, like I need to, just for that person alone, like I should continue on. Do you know what I mean? Uh-huh. Like it's those moments, especially through lockdown, because it was so hard through lockdown to find a reason to do this. Yeah. For me personally, Yeah. I can't speak for anyone else, but there were real times where it was like, what am I doing? Yeah. I mean, my music's fairly inward looking, but like in terms of, I wouldn't say my music is intentionally uplifting in terms of the lyricism, but like it's obviously, I've got messages from people where it's lifted them up. Yeah. Anyway, and that's just the best feeling, knowing that that's happened.
Because people connect to you. People do connect to you. And it's like, I know from listening to your music specifically and other pieces of music, sometimes even just knowing that someone else doesn't feel good or hasn't felt good and lived to tell the tale, is just so fortifying. It's so, I don't even know what the word is to describe it, but it's like I can do this. It's like proof, because like you said earlier, like music is about other people, you know, and it's not just like the stories, but also the act of music, you know. It's like you can do it for yourself, but it can be very, very, very lonely, you know. As soon as you play your song to one other person, or you collaborate with one other person, you play some music together, you know, you don't need to be a superstar to influence people with good music, you know. You could literally be a busker on the street and bring joy to hundreds of people, you know. And that's, you know, that's honorable, man. That's noble from my own point of view. But I mean, I imagine as well, and I probably can also say the same, that a lot of people have, you know, came close to maybe giving up on their passions in this period, you know. How come you're still here? Honestly, like, really? How come you're sat here saying, you know, signed a little indie deal and I'm still working on music and I'm releasing and I'm still going for it?
I don't know, mate, if I'm honest. Like, I ask myself that sometimes, because oddly enough, I probably shouldn't say this, but weirdly, I've actually never thought about quitting more than after I did the deal. Something about doing the deal made me super anxious.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think when I made that EP, I was working on stuff for people the start of this year, and then I had to get this EP done like as fast as possible. And so I was in here just all the time. Got really bad cabin fever, and just sent me a bit west. And I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But like, just took it. All I needed was just literally to bring our conversation full circle. Was like, I need to give myself a rest. I wasn't giving myself a rest. I literally just didn't come in this room for a month.
Yeah.
And yeah, but like in the years leading up to this year, I mean, how have I kept it up? I just couldn't accept failure. The idea of failure, like for a lot of years, it was like, I'm gonna be successful, and it's gonna happen, and I can't picture my life any other way. So when you have that kind of mindset, it just drives things. I'm not saying that was the good mindset, because there's a lot of dark spots, you know, with that kind of mindset. You know, you know when some people are like, I don't know what to do with my life. Yeah, like that. They spend a lot of time not figuring out where they want to go. I feel like that's like not a nice place to be. But an equally bad place to be is knowing exactly what you want to do. Yeah. And not being there. That's equally frustrating.
Yeah. It's like the two different sides of the same coin, isn't it?
Yeah. Just expectation and frustration.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Just that need to get to that point, whatever that point is. This is the thing, man. Like, I've always wanted to be like a successful musician. Yeah. But I realized I never actually had a clear vision of what my day-to-day would be. I didn't know what I actually wanted to spend my day-to-day doing.
Going back to that
what
lifestyle.
I would call myself, how people would perceive me or anything. It's just, I want to be a successful musician. What does that even mean?
So vague.
Like, would I be playing live all the time? Would I be in the studio? Would I... Like, what people would I have around me? Yeah. What would my hobbies be? I didn't think about any of that. It's just, I want to be a successful musician, and then I'll be validated. Yeah. And it's only now it's like, oh, I am a successful musician because I'm making music and I make money making music, and I do other jobs to supplement that income. But like, I am making money from music. Yeah. Therefore, I'm doing it professionally. Yeah. And that is success, and everything else is a bonus. Yeah. But it's taken me a long time to get to that very simple, very obvious state of mind. Yeah. It's taken a lot of lowering my expectations of
making it realistic, right?
Yeah. And just being happy with it, like you were saying, being happy in the now. And like, so do you know Madaliso?
Yeah. Shout out Madaliso. Anyone who's watching this, go check out Madaliso on Spotify and Instagram. A very talented, lovely musician, very nice human being.
Lovely human being.
Really nice human being.
He's come around a couple of times this week, and we've just been writing together. Nice. And it's just been fun. It's just been really fun. Yeah. And we've come up with a couple of ideas that we just both really like. We don't know where they're going to go. We don't know what they're going to lead to, but just the process, being in the room together, chatting, and like literally playing something and being like, this is fun right now. And whatever it becomes, it becomes. Didn't have that for a long time. It was just like, I need to get the song done. And then I need to put the song out. Yeah. And then I need to promote the song. Yeah. And it's such a frustrating process. So that would be my advice to anyone, is just enjoy it now, which I'm sure most people do, really. Yeah. You know, just the odd few that are a bit maniacal about it, like myself.
Mate, you know what? Like that mindset of enjoying things in the moment and enjoying things as they are now. I think in a lot of ways, the world that we live in, the society that we live in, it discourages that a lot. And that is the part of things that is like, that could stop you enjoying, for example, a good writing session in music. It could stop you enjoying your day-to-day life because you're constantly living for that, either the weekend or your holiday or or the glass of wine that you're going to have when you get home at the end of your shift, or like being unhappy with your mobile phone because you can't wait to get the new one, and just until you can get the new one, then everything will be great. And again, it's like just trying to arrive at some new destination because that new destination is going to be great, you know. Like as soon as I have like 1,000 Spotify listeners, life's going to be great. It's like, bro, like I did that by accident the other weekend because a friend of mine submitted our song for a playlist, and I just looked on Spotify and I was like, mate, I've got like 1,200 listeners on Spotify right now. I was like, wow, that's cool. And I was like, yeah, great, cool. And then I did something else because my life didn't just stop because of that tiny little detail of my life, you know? That doesn't, you know, that it's like all of these, a life is not all of these different little tiny moments come together. It's like the long-term play, you know, it's like the journey. It is the journey. That's why you have to trust the journey, because the journey is all of those moments, one after the other, you know, because it's like you'll play, yes, you'll have that session and it'll be awesome, and then you'll go do something else, you know, and then, you know, maybe that song will come out. But it's like, if you miss the great time of making that really fun song that you guys like, if someone else is in that environment and they're like, oh yeah, but like, oh, it's going to be even better when this song comes out, or like when we play this out, and they miss the great time they could be having right in that moment because they're already thinking of someone else that's not happened yet, you can kind of end up just like frustrating yourself and just taking joy away from yourself, like stealing joy from yourself. You know? I think that's really common. You know, I think a lot of people, I know I do that all the time still, even the fact that I'm aware of that, the folly of that, you know.
I was speaking to Ish about this. He was saying how when he was younger, and also when I was younger, how like we had this weird thing where we were willing to, it's sort of like, it's about the story of your life that you want to be told. Like I wanted to make great music, and I was willing to forgo being happy in the moment for it, just so I could be remembered for, you know, by the end of my life, I want people to be able to look back at what I've created and what I've done. And like, well, part of me is like, well, forbid my happiness in the moment, and forbid my like comfort in the moment. And there's that weird like romanticized thing about the artist of like suffering for your art. And like, who cares how I feel right here, right now? I just want to create the best thing I can that gets remembered. And I don't know. But me and Ish were like, yeah, like there is a part of me that does weirdly want to ignore everything else and just for the story at the end. To get to that end result, you know? Yeah. But it's unhealthy. It's completely unsustainable, and that doesn't benefit people around you.
Better to be able to enjoy the story while it's happening, and then by the time you get to it, be able to tell it to someone, and they can really understand and see as you're telling that story, like, wow, you really had a lot of time, didn't you? You had a really great time doing whatever the hell you did. And it's like, it's a weird journey, this life. No one expected to be born like, how could you expect to be born unless there's some crazy stuff going on, you know?
Yeah.
And there's you can go out of, there's so many things that you can do with this life. And if you use it to have a fantastic time with your life and bring some joy and leave, contribute to something, so that by the time that you're gone, like how we want to be, we want to be successful musicians because it gives us a legacy. It gives us something that like gives to someone, other people, and we've, by the time our body, dissolves and everything, it's like we've made a mark, we've contributed, we've made an impact. We can say, I had fun doing that, and it was good. I like the process.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you to kind of bring this conversation to a nice close. I want to ask, like, what kind of things you want to create, you want to achieve that are like haven't quite happened yet, like what things do you want to be able to tell about the story that are coming that haven't necessarily happened yet?
Specifically in music or in life?
In your life, my friend, in your life.
Well, music is like probably the biggest aspect of my life, well, one of the biggest. So to begin with, like music, I want to be involved in more projects by artists that have a really strong like political message.
Nice.
I want to facilitate artists with production and writing that their music is geared towards social change, political change. I'm working on a lot of music that is introspective and about me, or it's about the artists who I'm working with, which is great. And I think we all need that. But societal change, political music is a huge part of political change. And I want to be involved in that to like, just to be involved and just to feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. I would love to be involved in more projects like that as and when that happens, I feel like hip hop and rap is where that's happening. That's definitely like a big kind of aspiration of mine. In life, I want to be able to walk into a room and my instinct be that I want to make everyone in the room feel good, rather than what's everyone thinking about me.
Yeah.
Is everyone judging me? Am I being weird, etc.? I want to be able to walk into a room and my instinct be to make everyone else happy. I'm working on that. I think it's a process, but yeah, that's a big change I want to see in my life. Well, just to be fairly financially stable as well.
That does help.
Nice.
That does help. That's a nice one. That's a nice one to drop in there.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm moving to London in August, so that's a big change. We'll see what happens. What about yourself, man?
I'd say, damn. I didn't actually. You flipping it on me now. I was not necessarily prepared for that.
Oh, damn.
I like what you're talking about in terms of just being able to walk into a room and be like, how can I contribute? How can I make things better? And I think things that I haven't achieved yet. I think I want to raise children. I really, really want to raise children. I just think I could really do it. I could really help raise an amazing human being, and also probably mess it up. Because
nah, man,
it's the law. Family, every single parent messes us up in some way or another. Some more than others. Every single parent makes mistakes because every human makes mistakes. Sure,
I'm sure there's some unavoidable margin for error.
Yeah.
Do you not think that more people are, at the risk of making this podcast like another half an hour longer, do you not think there's like more and more people getting therapy and are aware that they need therapy, and just mental health in general is like the awareness of it? I feel like maybe this generation onwards, a lot of people might be better parents just because they're aware of how their parents have affected them. And maybe that people are trying to not take that with them into their future.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Like you mentioned therapy to someone who's in their 50s, 60s now.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Yeah, innit.
Therapy?
Innit.
I'm fine.
Yeah, innit. Bruh,
but,
I'm about to go see my therapist in like an hour. Real
Exactly. I mean, that's a sweeping generalization I just made. I know a lot of older people in therapy. That's like, but I just generally speaking, I think it's more accepted and commonplace for people in our generation to be getting therapy.
Yeah.
Having said that, I've never had therapy, but
mate, I recommend everyone to indulge in some kind of counseling, just because I think everyone deserves it. You know, I think everyone deserves learning more about themselves and healing about themselves. And to be honest, talking about being a parent and raising children, I think that's one of the things that you really, really learn as a parent. Is you learn, it's like, wow, this is really what I'm like, because if you raise a child, they'll mirror you a lot, and a lot of the time, the things that you find the most frustrating about young people are the things, and people of all kinds, are the things that you do that you're like, oh, that really annoys me, that really angers me. It's normally something that you do personally, and it's just that you're seeing someone else do it, and you're like, oh, that's kind of ugly, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like, you know.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so aware of that now. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
But yeah, I would love to. I look forward to that being a part of my journey. That's to come on the next episode of Elijah's life, of Nelson's life. You know? that's yet to come. That's like season.
You're talking like next year?
Nah.
Next year, next couple of years?
That's season 35 in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I genuinely don't want to have. I don't really want to raise kids until I'm like in my 30s, for real.
Yeah.
Just because I want to be able to give. I want to be able to give kids just a really good chance, and like I feel like I was really lucky with parents, and I want to give that. I want to give that legacy to more kids.
Yeah.
Which doesn't. You don't have to be a parent to do that. You can do it through teaching and all that other stuff. I just feel like it's just something. It's selfish in a way, but it's
That's
true.
cool, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But do you reckon you'd have kids like some point in your life, or is that not really?
I'm the wrong guy to ask at the moment, man.
Yeah.
Because at the moment I'm just unsure, because in a vacuum, I would love to have kids. Same as you, in my 30s, give the music a real chance, do a few more things, you know, just free myself of that responsibility for a little bit longer. But like, yes, in my 30s. However, the thing that scares me is the whole global warming aspect of things. I mean, this is super like bleak, but like there's this theory that, have you heard of this wet bulb theory?
No.
So the wet bulb theory is that by the year 2100, the worst case scenario is that at current rate of warming, if the climate raises by like 8 degrees, the Earth will be completely uninhabitable.
Mad.
The best case scenario at current rate of warming is like 3 to 4 degrees.
Mad.
Which is like huge amounts of climate immigration from the east to the west, like racial conflict like you've never seen it before, floods, natural disasters. Like, unless we make serious changes now, which looks like it is starting to happen in terms of social, but like politically, those changes need to be manifested in order for real change to happen. But birthing a child into that potentiality scares me, basically, is the point. And that, again, is selfish, really, because maybe I'm robbing a child of a potentially beautiful future where the Earth is in a good shape. But
it's uncertain, man. There's a lot of things going on that we don't necessarily know what's going to happen. It's a lot of chaos.
But that's a bit of a defeatist mentality. So I don't know. Who knows how I'll feel in a year, 2 years, you know?
Trust your journey, sir. Trust your journey. And
trust your journey.
Maybe I'll talk to you in 2 years' time and you'll be like, I never thought I'd be here right now, but this is where I am, you know?
But I have triplets.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I've got 4 of them. They're behind me.
The ones we love. Listen, man, it's been an absolute joy chatting and just getting deep, you know? So I really appreciate you giving your energy here. Do you want to tell people, you know, what to look out for, where to look out for it, you know, from you, and what you want people to know about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's new music coming in 2021. Something is coming in July. I don't know when this is going out, this podcast, but July something's dropping, and then every month from then on there'll be a little something, you know. I can't say much more, but yeah, I mean, I'm just away in my room otherwise, and I'll post here and there, but I'll be pretty quiet otherwise.
I'll be about
At
Steven Bamidele, am I right?
Yeah, Steven Bamidele, Bamidele on Instagram, and then you can find everything else from there. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed this conversation.
No, thank you for having me, man. I hope this is listenable.
I think so. Yeah, I'll look forward to the next conversation we have, I must say. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. I know you enjoyed it because you're still here. So hit that follow button and you'll get notified when the next episode drops, which at the moment is the second Thursday of the month. Also, a big thank you to our editor for the series, Ty Harrison. Because you're so close to my heart and one of my priorities is to make your life better, I want you to do something for me. I want you to screenshot this podcast, tag me on Instagram, and tell me what your biggest learning was from the conversation you just heard, which could be anything, could be absolutely anything. Whatever you've learned, I'll share you on my story. You can have 24 hours of fame. How is that for a good deal? Honestly, come on. And maybe even drop you a little DM as well. We'll see. I really look forward to hearing from you. I'm sending you peace. I'm sending you love. And I'm reminding you above all to always trust your journey.